Welcome to Wealthy After 40. Ready to ditch debt, retire sooner, and live life on your own terms? Only 54% of Gen Xers feel prepared for retirement, and 22% believe they will live a comfortable lifestyle. So if you're feeling like your finances are a hot mess express, you are not alone. I'm Daylene Higgins, founder of Elevate Finances and money coach for Gen Xers. I reached my dream of retiring at 50 while helping our daughter through college, and now I want to help you do the same. It's time to stop avoiding your finances like the plague and start having confident conversations about money. Join me every week to talk about personal budgeting, debt payoff, saving for retirement, money mindset, and leaving a legacy for future generations. Okay, friends, let's talk money. Welcome to today's episode of Wealthy After 40, and today's guest is Alfredo Zapata, originally from Mexico. He is a nutritionist, fitness coach, speaker, and author. For the last 30 years, he has been studying physical and mental performance and different techniques to keep the body healthy in an unconventional way with his program called Connect Mind and Body. He lived in Los Angeles for over 28 years, married with 2 children, and worked with executives from Fox, Platinum Studios, and pro athletes. Thank you for being here today, Alfredo.
Thank you. And I'm, pretty excited to be here on your show and being able to share, a few golden nuggets.
Yes. Thank you. So he is going to share with us how money became a struggle after he got married. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it was an incredible dream because being able to be in a different country and having a new life, kind of like unfolding different things for me, it was like not totally frozen for the amazement, but it was just blending into myself. Then I started learning how to communicate with people, how to build relationships, and that led me, after I joined this Christian congregation, to start getting to know people, and especially women, which was kind of like a little bit of a fear for me to build friendships with women, because it was more like, if I like you, I want you to be my girlfriend and then get married. So that was kind of like some of those fairy tale stories. So I was kind of bumping always my head on the wall because I didn't feel okay. I felt like I was going to the store shopping for a shirt, the right color, the right price, the right size. And at the end of the day, it's because I went, with several of those females from the congregation, I felt like empty because I didn't feel like I was building a relationship. I was more like I just shopping. And I felt pretty bad. And, I pray, and I was looking for advice in how to get out of that mentality. So finally, after a few months, one of my roommates, Chinese Malaysian, he was dating who is my wife currently. And it was a good girlfriend that he had. And he said, Alfredo, there's a Valentine's dance. And my girlfriend has a couple of friends, and one of them doesn't have a date. Will you wanna be her Valentine? And I said, sure, that'd be great, And so he gave me the number. I called her up and we talked for a little bit. I asked her and she said yes. So it was very exciting because it was something that I didn't expect. I knew she was Asian, but it wasn't something that I was kind of like in any way having any expectation. It was just to encourage somebody and being a good guy and everything. So we went out and we had a great time at the party and dancing and talking, but I noticed her, she was kind of shy. Anyway, so I said, okay, well, that's fine. I like her, but, she's kind of shy. So we sent thank you cards after the date, a few days later, and then we went out a couple times, a couple months later. But I noticed that she was kind of shy. And I said, well, I don't think I'm her type. So I'm kind of going to back up and go on my way. So time passed. And then I think it was a year or two that it happens that someone need a date. Another friend came to live in America from China to do his PhD in biology. So he joined our fellowship, and then we start, rooming and doing great things. He said, Alfredo, do you know any Asian sisters that I can go on a date? And I said, sure. So I called Elisa, which is, it was my girlfriend. Oh, actually, it wasn't my girlfriend. And then I said, Elisa, would you like to go on a date? But I need you to get a date for my friend. He's from China and all that stuff. And she said, sure. But I wasn't looking for her. I was just getting a date for my roommate. So anyway, we went out and it was good, but I wasn't really paying attention to her because I thought, well, she doesn't like me. Anyway, so 3 years passed, and then I was, dating a few people, and then they asked me, Alfredo, so you have any interest, any sisters and stuff? And I said, well, no, I've been going with different ones, but I don't see much. And one of them, who was very spiritual and a good friend, he said, well, maybe God already has somebody for you, but you're not looking because your heart is hardened. So you need to open up and think about it. And I started looking around in my mind, and I said, oh, that's Elisa. And I asked one of the guys, do you think I should ask her? And he said, well, why not? Just go, and you're only going to get 2 answers, yes or no, and that's it. So I planned it. She said yes. We planned the whole thing, and it was amazing because she said, I was praying since I met you that you will like me, but even if you don't like me, I will be your friend no matter what. So we dated for 9 months, and then we got married in 1999 in October. And it was amazing because we got a big church. My mom came from Mexico, and everything was just a dream. We went to Hawaii for honeymoon, and we had quite a bit of support from people. We do the dollar dance and stuff, so we had quite a lot, almost like for a month and more for rent for a new apartment. So it was amazing, everything. So talking about money, it was like, well, more than we can imagine, because we had so much care and love and help from people. So we end up, going 7 days. And we came back to our new apartment, and we started a new life. And obviously there was not much experience because I never been married. She never been married either. And we started looking at finance. Even though she was a bookkeeper, we didn't really get into that much. And I was very careless because single for many years. I was more like, making money, saving a little for paying my rent and stuff, and then spend it. So we start kind of having a little challenging time sometimes in the beginning, because it was more like, do you pay the phone bill? And things like that. But she took the lead on it, being her expertise, but also because she's been very linear with, finance and stuff. And I started noticing that it was kind of like someone telling me what to do. So I started feeling a little strange, a little bit of upset in a way, because I said, well, she's kind of telling me what to do. I wasn't appreciating that. And, we're newly married and stuff. So anyway, after about 9 months, almost a year, they were, married with no kids, because we were thinking about, well, let's wait for a year and see how things going. Everybody was working. I was working at the gym and doing my private training, and she was bookkeeping. So everything was all right. We invite friends over and things like that. And as soon as she finished, because she was on birth control, she got pregnant. And it wasn't something that we didn't want it, but it was unexpected. So it was very good. And, we were just excited and jumping up and down. And then it was another hurdle in terms of financial, because we start kind of having restructure things. What are we going to do? How are we going to manage? Our family and friends help us a lot, with some of the things for when you're having a baby, and, the baby showers, and everything was fine. But underneath, start going that little pebble in the shoe, they start bothering in terms of financial because money start getting a little bit tighter. And because I started doing my own private training and few coaching things, she started going through the whole pregnancy. So things start also getting a little challenged in terms of her work. So she took, a couple of days off because a doctor's visit and things like that. And then as the pregnancy got more into the 9 months, it was more like so I think I'm gonna take some time off, and I think they give them 3 months before and after, and three after or something. So it was more like, oh man, well, so I have to keep on looking for more clientele because even though she got the money from pregnancy, it was kind of tight on my end because I wasn't an entrepreneur fitness professional at that time. It was kind of trying to just get whatever I could from anybody, trying to promote. There was barely starting Facebook and internet. There was no social media and things like that. If you want to pay an ad, you got to put money on it. So I started going to some of those network meetings, like a lunch or breakfast, just to kind of promote myself. But I was spending money on the gas and maybe on the lunch or maybe on the breakfast. And there was money that I didn't really have extra. It was more kind of like trying to make up some business going to kind of balance the boat in terms of money. And I started getting a little bit frustrated. At that time, she got perfect credit and I got good credit, and then I started getting more credit. So I started using the credit to kind of cover things up. And at the place where I was doing my training, which was my incredible university to become professional, it was Gold's Gym Venice, the mecca of bodybuilding, with all the famous people were. And I was one of the top independent contractors at that place. So it was an honor, but I wasn't making enough money like those guys because I was one of the rookie ones. So I started using my credit card to kind of cover some of the expenses, even though, we had the health insurance and things cover pregnancy and all that. It started getting challenged, and, we started getting some frictions, me and her, and, trying to pray and keep things easy, but still, it was going a little bit minus on my account, and some of the payments were kind of piling a bit. And sometimes she will say, oh, well, so how do you pay the rent? Because I was paying rent at this place. It was kind of like my office to work. And, it needed to be monthly. So I was using credit card to pay instead of using the cash from, clients. And it wasn't good because that credit card, it was the one that you gotta pay in full, those American Express gold cards. And I was like, how do I make it? Because I don't make enough to pay it all in full. So start adding up things, and we got the news that her water broke, but it took a while. So the whole delivery was kind of like a struggle. We had a lot of support through the whole time, family and friends from church. But underneath, the money was kind of making that way in, kind of like a snake crawling on our feet and making us feel, especially myself, because her, her mind of bookkeeping and accounting was all right, but she was kind of, a little bit upset because me not being careful about it and actually not having a formal education in terms of family, how to manage money, how money works. So we got the delivery thing and everything, was C-section. It was like more than 12 hours waiting because we were broke early and things didn't work out. But and ended up being an incredible son, over a 3-pound baby. And it was amazing because out of that, everything was just, roses and flowers, like those dreams when you had the first baby. So we start kind of just going back home and trying to sit down and say, okay, so who's gonna change diapers, who's gonna feed them? But besides that, how are we gonna manage money? So we had those 3 months leeway for her, and who's gonna take care of our kid when she's working and I'm working. So we got the babysitter and things start working. But it was a hurdle, and after our son was born at the age of 1, 2, we start noticing things a little bit different in his behavior. So something was coming, and I believe it was a gift. But at that time, we didn't know because, newly parents. So at age of 3, we noticed, and because we had this friend pediatrician, she said, well, Leo looks all right, and things are fine, no problems, blood and everything fine. But we noticed it wasn't kind of like too responsive, like, crawling took a long time. And then she said, well, just wait. But we start noticing things. So we end up taking it to a specialist, and they did some testing, some diagnosed things. And they said, well, I think you need to see a specialist on behavior and different situations. So end up being diagnosed with autism. And it was like, oh, okay. So now how are we going to manage that? Not because it was something detrimental for us, but it was also the worry of how do we manage money. And then this is something that we need to put our mind and our hearts to manage, to understand, so we can become better people to provide for him without talking about money or any struggles that we had ourselves, but mainly that because it was a new human being. And how are we gonna inspire him? How are we gonna teach him if we're not really in sync with ourselves? Money was kind of like the energy that kind of stir a lot of things around us. So yeah, we had a few discussions and saying, well, you need to make more money, and I'm not working right now, and things like that. So I start kind of panicking in the way and stressing, and credit cards were coming in the mail. Well, you got more credit, and good for you. And besides that, after we got married, before we got our first son, I already purchased a vehicle, but I end up going into lease a new vehicle because we need a little more space, for the kid. And sometimes you get a little kind of wanted to give a little treat for yourself. So we end up getting a lease on this new vehicle, brand new, leather and everything, very nice. And it was my first brand new car. And I was like, oh man, well, that's good. Sunroof, leather, and, the baby and everything fine. So it was all right. But because we didn't put enough down, so the monthly wasn't too easy, plus insurance. So things start going up, even though I pick up, quite a few new clients, and it was nice. It was kind of like the boat, when there is a hole inside the boat and the water start coming inside the boat, kind of like that. And, I was trying to paddle just to kind of keep it afloat. And I didn't notice it because I didn't want to pay attention. I was afraid to look underneath. And, based on my profession, I look in always for the origin of the problem, not to fix it. And in that case, I didn't want to look because I was afraid. So I start, going with our lives, taking the kid to therapy and different things. And I think it passed 1 year or 2, and then she got pregnant again. And it was, it was a blessing, but it was kind of like, oh, okay, so how are we going to manage, car payment, the kid, and all those finance? So things, even though they looked a little better, it was still kind of a challenge. So end up being in that route. I feel like, okay, well, I think things are going all right. So I'm not gonna touch anything. I'm just gonna run with the flow, like they said. But I wasn't looking underneath, and that was my mistake because things started going a little bit south, and then we got the income tax, which it was helpful, but it was more like just a little lifesaver, but it was just temporarily and things like that. And I was like, oh man, so how are we gonna do it? She's pregnant again, so we need to get a new apartment because we had 1 bedroom apartment. So how are we gonna manage and stuff? So we end up getting a 2 bedroom apartment where it was my former single neighborhood. We were able to get a brand new 2 bedroom apartment. So we move in and everything started kind of looking okay, but there was underneath something that started getting molded, and it was the financial, because there was some late payments and things like that, especially with the car payment, because her grade was pretty good, but mine wasn't as good as hers. And it was kind of like, well, your interest and all that. So I wanted to refinance because, the payment was too high to make it. So I ended up refinancing and they took my car in and I got a SUV. I got an SUV because we had 2 kids, one in the way and then the other one. So I said, okay, well, I think we can manage that. And then we did a little down payment. So end up being with a big debt coming up. And we said, what do we do? And she said, well, and she was like, well, I don't think I can still work over there because, it demands the 8 hours and all that stuff and the 2 kids and how are we going to manage? So we end up going when the internet started with these online stores that you can sign up. That was back then when you have to have this company set up for you and then you have to put the products. It wasn't like an Amazon, it was more like a website. And then you pick out from wholesalers or drop shippers all the wholesale prices and then you put them on and then you up the price, make a profit. So end up we got scammed in a way with this ad. They promised for us to have a website custom, but for us to manage the inventory and all that. So we both agree and we sign up. It was like $6,000-7,000 that we put on credit, and she started struggling every day because she started having to check all the inventory, and some of the stores they didn't have what we were advertising, and we didn't make much money in it. So it was the car payment debt plus the credit card plus whatever we owe, and some of the department stores and things like that. So it was kind of getting a bit of a hairy situation, and I started having very challenging times with her because the 2 kids, the kid with special needs, I wasn't aware really and humble to find out what was the problem. So we got some advice, but we end up getting a big, big, big pile of debt that we end up looking at. We have to file bankruptcy because we cannot manage that. It's very difficult. We need to find a way out. So we end up doing it, but it was very difficult. But I think it was a life lesson. And I think now is way different. And, I'm glad that happened because if it didn't, I don't know what will be right now.
Thank you for sharing. I know that's being vulnerable, right? And sharing the failures. I love how you share that even though it was a struggle, that you're grateful for it. And I'm sure that attitude has allowed you to move forward and to grow and find abundance now. So before we close off, I just have one more question for you. Since you are a nutrition fitness coach, how can listeners use nutrition and fitness to support their financial journey?
Yeah, well, that's very much something very needed. And I think all the humans, once we grow and we have some sense of, who we are, our bodies is besides being the temple. And people don't realize that we live from the neck up because we think, we see, we speak, we listen. And from the neck down, only we pay attention if we want to have a good six pack or look slim, or if something hurts. If something hurts, you just want to fix it. You don't want to look where it came from. And if you want a good body, you want a quick, you want a microwave transformation. And I think that's one of the mistakes. And I think marketing and publicity with no ethic have been through different trends and different areas in life, taking people for a ride because they don't want to instruct. The health and wealth has to be tied up, because if you don't put some aside to really think in how you can function better, you're going to end up with a lot of debt on your health, because your medical and your care is going to be so much expensive. So what I tell people when I do the evaluation, because my program has 3 points, which is addressing the stress in your posture. The posture can cause you so much trouble in your mind that your decisions to eat, to financial management, money management, and to even exercise are totally wrong, because you're in a bad mood. If you have a neck achy, shoulders, knees, lower back, even though you might know how to eat healthy, you're not going to choose that. You're going to say, forget it. I'm going to get a chocolate. I'm going to get a drink. I'm going to go for a massage to forget about it. But I don't want to find what's the problem, especially now with confinement. And that's because people, major time, are afraid to look for the truth. So what I show people is how they can look better and feel better, doing a posture analysis so people feel much comfortable. So the mood changes and it's a lot more uplifting, more empowering. So they can choose to eat healthy, to put on their schedule the food, not to miss it because you had too much work. And then when you exercise, you're going to have the detonation of those healthy changes. But because you invest in yourself, obviously you got to put a little money at the side because you want to eat a little better, because you may need a health of a coach like myself. You want to have guidance, like what I didn't have when I was managing money, but in this case, managing your health so your wealth can last. Because if you don't have health, it doesn't matter how much wealth you have, you're going to lose it. And if you don't have wealth, but you have health, you have a better mindset. And I tell that professional boxers, CEOs, people from different walks of life, even seniors, that I worked for many years with them, how much they treasure to feel better. They treasure to feel better more than having money in their account. And I think it's both ways that you need to be conscious about, especially in this time. The 21st century gave us so much and so much information, like what you do, to help people to be oriented on that particular route. That as long as you're alive and you can walk, you're responsible to take care of your health, and obviously to learn about how to manage the money so your wealth can be equal and really be happy and enjoy life.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful conversation. Listeners, go connect with Alfredo. It's Alfredo Zapata Coach on Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And those links will be down in the show notes. So go connect with them. Appreciate you, Alfredo, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Every week, my goal is to help you get one step closer to financial freedom and making confident decisions so your money starts working for you. Having a community of support is important to your financial success. I would love to have you join me in my free Facebook community, All Things Personal Finance. Inside this group, every live training, action challenge, and posts are filled with tips and strategies to help you progress to financial freedom. If you have questions from today's episode or want to learn more, follow me on Instagram at Elevate Finances. If you're looking for personalized support to get your finances on track, check out my website at elevatefinances.us to learn more about how I can support you with one-on-one coaching. Thanks and have a wonderful day.